Right, we're getting ready to go live. Right. All right, all right. All right, all right. We're going live. Okay, let me mute this out, the backup screen. We're going live. Welcome to Dorsey's Resource. Welcome, welcome. The topic of this video is going to be global currency reset connection to XRP, banking changeover to crypto. I'm coming back before you guys. I apologize. The previous video I just recently recorded, there was no audio. I didn't discover the audio, the issue until too late. It was very powerful, action-packed information, in my opinion. So I'm going to go over the information. Once again, hopefully all goes well. That's that. So first, as usual, before we get started, I'm going to give a disclaimer. This is not legal advice. This information is for educational purposes only. Please understand everyone's individual circumstance and situation may be different. It's up to every individual competent person. So please do his or her own homework and research regarding the matter being discussed. This information, once again, is not to be construed as legal advice. In the event you feel you need to seek a competent professional, it is encouraged you do so at one's own leisure. Dorsey's Resource channel is not liable or responsible for anyone's misuse of the information. These are simply my opinions on the topic. Keep in mind, any other affiliated sites do not share the same political views or opinions as Dorsey's Resource. They are indemnified. These are simply my opinions on the topic. All rights are reserved. Now, let's get into this topic. It's global currency reset connection to XRP, banking change over to crypto. I wanted to discuss. This video is well overdue. I postponed this video. I actually received information from a very reliable private source over a month ago, early part of June, by the way. So I postponed. I've been meaning to come before you guys, but I have to have notes prepared. This time, there had been a previous time when my source had come through to share this critical information with me. And at the time, this time he came through, I took notes, where the previous times I didn't take notes. But this time I was sure, because I wanted to have more of a thorough understanding as I do my best to attempt to relay the information to you guys. So without further ado, my source talked about, this may be a little bit out of order, but 5 top cryptocurrencies that I would invest in. It will behoove you, if you are a cryptocurrency holder, to hear the information in this video. Is very important. There are other channels out there that have already actually covered this particular topic, the connection with the ISO, the new banking changeover. Just to put a heads up, I did typed in certain terminology on YouTube, and I was amazed that there was channels already on top of it, by the way. And there was one guy I follow, actually shared with my private source. I think he may have been subscribed to himself, and there's some other people. So I'm not the only person out there that's discussed this publicly. I just want to put that on the record. There are some other top channels out there that are aware of this information. But then again, there's a lot of people in cryptos who don't, because they don't know anything about the private sector. They only know about the public. So there's 5 top digital currencies to load the boat on, question mark. Number 1, he kind of went over XRP. He stated to me was going to be pegged to gold. Number 2, XLM, he said may allegedly, I should say allegedly, I don't know for sure, is allegedly going to be pegged to silver. Once they reset gold and silver to its true value, the commodities market, things will go into effect, my source stated, because keep in mind, gold and silver are the 2 most manipulated cryptos out there. I said this earlier on the previous video where you guys couldn't hear my audio. I went over how my source mentioned to me, for example, rhodium is a metal that they allow to what do they call this? A term they use to reach its actual value in terms of what it's worth. But gold and silver specifically, physical precious metals, the commodities market it's referred to, has been manipulated for quite a while. That may be coming to an end soon down the road. I don't know the exact date, but we are getting closer to that time. So it will behoove you, if you don't have physical precious metals, silver or gold in your possession, to do so as soon as possible, especially silver. By the way, when it's still cheap, actually has gone down in more recent months. If you can't feel like you can't afford it, either one, there are fractionalized pieces, smaller denominations you can buy, just like when you break your denominations, like your quarters, nickels and dimes and pennies. There's what's called constitutional silver. Look at 1964 on back. Now there are videos. I won't go in depth about that. There are videos you can look up on YouTube that will give you education behind that. It's important to not have all your eggs in one basket, have multiple assets that, what do they call it? Don't have all your eggs in one basket. Of course, I just said that, but diversify your portfolio is what you want to do. So I heard allegedly, and what's coming down the road, you actually might need even some fiat between metals, cryptos, and fiat between whatever's destined to happen or whatever's about to happen. But I hear something's going down. If you're familiar with Snippy's channel, by the way. So once again, my source mentioned XRP is going to be pegged to gold. XLM allegedly may be pegged to silver. And once they reset gold and silver to its true value, then he said the commodities market, things will go into effect, and they may reflect the actual price when they shoot XRP up to its actual price, by the way. So there's a new financial system that's going into effect. It's being worked on as we speak, called the quantum financial system. This was spoken about for quite a while on different conference calls, even before Charlie Ward was discussing it. I heard it on Bruce's call, which I was a follower of, and some other calls. And in reading, you have, what's that site? Dinar Recaps. It's a good site. Dinar Detectives, a site I've been checking for years. DinarGuru.com was like a site that gives like brief updates from a lot of the top intel providers. It's similar. Dinar Recaps is a site that kind of links you to quite a few of the top intel providers that have different conference calls that talk about the global currency reset, that have been talking about this for years and have been consistent. When I put it on the back burner, but I know some of you all have asked me about it in the past. I really stopped talking about this particular topic. I stopped covering this particular topic for a while, but it appears as though now is the time that things are getting ready to manifest or allegedly come about. So my source, which I mentioned, I postponed this video, went over this with me the early part of June. I won't go into all the exact details, but I postponed this video for a while, but I think it is very important. And I have been meaning to do this for a while. One of the reasons I postponed this, I had additional notes I wanted to try to get together. I wasn't sure if I was going to have to record the video at my place or which I'm at, I call the slavery plantation now, by the way, until hopefully I won't down the road have to ever do this again. And this is separate from the other topic that I was discussing that deals with redemption information. I call redemption education, freedom, sovereignty, whatever you want to call it, status correction, whatever name label. This is a lot different. There are some similarities. There is some connections, but this is a different topic than what I have been normally dealing with over there, because I've been receiving some new updated information, and I want to try to make sure all my ducks are in order and also give you guys a heads up. I do apologize. I know it's been a while since I've done a video, but I may not be doing as many videos that often. We'll see, but I wanted to give you guys an update on what my source told me a little over, well over a month ago, but I would say the early part of June. And also he mentioned to me that because silver and gold are the two most manipulated physical precious metals, there's coins, other precious metals. One is called rhodium. There's another platinum and palladium, which I hear are actually components that are produced or made inside a lot of catalytic converters. That is a particular car part that is a component inside required in many newer cars, by the way. And there had been, I heard, allegedly going back years ago, a lot of thefts involving these catalytic converters in major cities across the country, such as Detroit, Houston, Los Angeles, or San Francisco, etc. You watch the news because it contains a metal called rhodium, platinum, and palladium. And my source was telling me that rhodium is not as manipulated as the way gold and silver are heavily manipulated, but that may come to an end very soon. I don't know the exact day or hour, because a lot of stuff is secret when it deals with this high level information. He went over this with me some years ago when I started purchasing precious metals for the first time. I was familiar with the futures market, which I believe is the COMEX exchange. If you've heard of COMEX, they have to deal with that aspect of the commodities market that deals with precious metals, the digital version of precious metals. And the COMEX is an acronym for Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and I hear is allegedly connected to the New York Stock Exchange. And there's been a lot of manipulation going on for years, but like I say, to reiterate, I heard that is getting ready to come to an end, or down the road after they do this collapse, by the way, that there's going to be some major changes on the horizon. So this new financial system is going to be called the quantum financial system. I was informed there's another crypto he mentioned, said number 3, XDC, might be pegged to copper. He was explaining to me Algorand, which is number 4, IOTA, and some of these coins. I pulled up an article earlier. I'm just going to I'm giving a kind of a quick rundown, because the previous video I apologize to you, didn't have any sound, so I'm just redoing that video. But there's a PDF that here, I'm gonna scroll, I'm gonna jump to the top real quick, but it shows that these coins were backed by the World Economic Forum. You guys can see my screen. I have the screen capture on. That's why I'm using Zoom. It says World Economic Forum. Now, I just want to let you all know there are other YouTube channels that have covered this a long time ago. If you know what to look for, if you have your eyeglasses on, you're paying attention. By the way, I'm not the only channel that's covered this. Numerous other ones have, by the way. That's how I came across information. I do research. I'm a researcher. So when they pulled this up, I naturally looked up the name of the book. That's real easy to do. I know some people ask me, to send them stuff, but this is something in your own spare time. That's why I give them my disclaimer. I encourage you guys to do your own homework, do your research. And this says this is a cryptocurrencies guide to getting started, but I was informed by another conference call that these were particular coins to pay attention to because they're backed by the World Economic Forum. That's why I had the screen pulled up earlier that goes over these coins. Some of these are on the list that are connected to the ISO ledger, supposedly a new international ledger system that is going to be phased in worldwide. How cryptos do banking, or will help facilitate banking transactions. Like there's certain cryptos where the technology is a lot faster in terms of speed, proficiency, and getting transactions resolved in a quicker time than Bitcoin, by the way, that they may be connected to this new ISO system. I heard HBAR, Hedera Hashgraph, may be one of them. I heard allegedly Digibyte may be one of them, because Digibyte is more, is faster than even Bitcoin, a lot faster. It's off a newer technology that can facilitate like banking transactions. So certain cryptos, if you're getting started for the first time, you want to focus on these main cryptos, by the way. So on this list, you had Algorand, Cardano, Celo, XRP, Solana, Stellar. But on this newer list, my source was sharing with me, XDC may be another important vital one to pick up. I think it's real cheap right now with the price. There's a famous quote I hear by Warren Buffett where he says, "Be greedy when others are fearful," because last year when we were in a bull market at certain times of the year, there was a lot of excitement in different phases through each parts of the bull market, through the bull cycle, that there's a lot of excitement in the market, brings in new investors. And we've had the latest newer technology with NFTs, non-fungible tokens. You've had the metaverse, but there's also been major crashes that have happened where people have lost crypto. So, you know, this is something like the stock market. You have to be careful and do your research, be aware of what you're doing. So this is not financial advice. This is not legal advice. This is not tax advice, by the way. I wanted to cover that again. I did give a disclaimer already, but just mentioning this again, one has to do their own homework. I'm just giving a rundown on what my source shared with me is critical. Some of these things I have not got around to yet myself, by the way. And I just saw, on a side note, in case I forget, the video that Currency 365 did. Big shout out to who's been a big supporter of mine about the giveaway. When I get a chance, I've been meaning, I didn't have your email address or how you know, I would contact you, but I think we do follow each other on Twitter, by the way. My email address is in the description box anyway for serious inquiries only. So I will try to reach out to you definitely to give you that information. By the way, appreciate all those who voted, all the people out there that support Currency 365. I mentioned in the past, you guys are welcome. He talks about, you guys want to know information. He keeps up. He stays abreast more consistently than I do. I've been subscribed to his channel for quite a while, quite a number of years. He does an excellent job with all the other contributors as well. TC, Benny, many others back in the day, some that may not as much, by the way, I paid attention to try to stay abreast of the information. So I will try to get that information just in case you're watching, by the way, very soon. And I appreciate you guys. Thank you. So to get back on topic, my source was going over these different cryptos. He said you want to pay attention to and focus primarily on, because what may possibly happen down the road is that, I don't know when this is going to happen, but this is going to be critical. If you don't own your cryptos on a lot of these exchanges, I've heard rumors from other people that if there's a hack or something happens or a massive power outage or EMP, then you're going to need a hardware wallet to store your private keys so you have access to. And my source mentioned you want to go through the manufacturer. You want to be careful to not go through a third-party source like eBay or Amazon, because I've heard in the past that people who went through those third-party sources had their coins hacked, because allegedly whoever these people were went inside, repackaged the instrument, and did something either to the device itself or took got information and put it back in and repackaged it like it was brand new, got access to the what would you call the SIM keys or whatever, and maybe down the road or when that device was purchased or whatever, somehow kept up, and then they were able to get those people's keys. So I think it's a blessing in disguise why years ago I didn't know or know that Bitcoin was going to blow up the way that it did, when a friend of mine had told me back in 2013, and I didn't really follow through. He didn't get back with me because he was very busy with college at the time. And I didn't, and that was on me. I didn't follow back up with him. Little did I know. But there's been a lot of traps throughout the years and obstacles people have fallen prey to, even exchanges that have been hacked and stuff like that before. So just something to keep in mind. These are things that are important as you learn about this. You might not have a choice, because I hear with this new banking system changeover, we're all going to be forced onto this. They're going to start getting away from calling it cryptos. They already are doing this. My source informed me they're going to start calling this digital assets, because, you know, legislators are trying to work out taxes. And I heard about this. Thanks. Kudos to you guys that informed me about the Bitcoin time travelers some years ago. I didn't know about this. You guys that gave me that information. Big shout out to, I did look up that information at the time. If you guys still follow me, those that are still around, kudos to you. For those that still rock with the channel, those that have shared that information, I just want to let you all know I did check out that information from years ago. And that's why I kind of know some things, because once again, I'm a researcher, and big shout out to you guys that gave me that information. I wouldn't have known unless it was for you guys. Just keep in mind, you guys have all the power. I'm a messenger, and that's how sword sharpens sword. We empower each other. Don't let them stop you from talking, sharing the information, which is vital to us getting access to our freedom. So these hardware wallets, my source recommended, make sure you get them directly from the manufacturer. Don't go through a third party like Treasure, Model T, Ledger Nano was thrown out there. Decent wallet. And the reason why he named different wallets, because some of these wallets might not have the same crypto coins on them that you need to move from a major exchange to move to basically to your hardware wallet. So just something to keep in mind. You want to have a backup in case there's a grid down situation. And he also mentioned a Faraday cage, Faraday bag, or something that's fire resistant, fireproof, like a safe or something like that. So in the event, God forbid, something like this happens, you will have access to your private keys. And then some people that have access to maybe portable power stations or backup generators will have a way to still be able to connect to the internet potentially when a lot of other places or things are down, possibly. Just put it out there. So that's why you want to look into these backups, by the way, and for what's coming down the road with the major changes. He also mentioned, very similar to some information that I received, that this private call that he would tune into, we would listen throughout the years, private calls that give updates about the global currency reset, like the Iraqi dinar, the dong. He would state, now the update is that, and I heard this on Bruce's call a while ago. Mighty funny, these were totally different calls from the call that he listened to. And there was another call, I read this information that allegedly down the road, when you're going to exchange your dinars, you're going to get paid in digital assets, which some people call cryptocurrency. They're going to phase away from using that term and start calling these digital assets. I noticed that's been happening already. From what my source was saying, they're going to use blockchain technology. So you're going to get paid or get your funding, or I should say currency, in a digital asset. And allegedly here, everything is in motion right now as we speak, by the way. This is to get more specific. What my private source told me, one of my most elite sources that I have, by the way, shared with me. So he went over retail investors are considered like the small fry people like you and me. However, institutional investors are like the banks and people with assets with $100 million or more. By the way, I kind of had an understanding because some years ago I attended an event privately where we learned about qualified institutional buyers based on certain rules with the Securities Exchange Commission. By the way, if you are in a certain income bracket and high net worth, but keep in mind there's a difference between being rich, being public versus being wealthy. There's differences being just a regular rich person between super rich or just flat out wealthy. There's differences in publicly versus privately. So I won't go into details. That could be a whole separate video, but he was just sharing they're going to, through regulations, they're using some of these tactics to shake people off the market to get rid of what they call retail investors, small fry people like you and me, by the way. So this is going to determine the decisions that we make now is going to determine what appears like the next future millionaires or people that are wealthy or the new middle class. If you don't make certain moves now, proper moves, then it could determine whether you're going to be a slave or stuck in the system forever, by the way. So they are potentially trying to get rid of the retail investors because of the potential Ripple buyout. I heard since they may not want to pay out $37,000 per coin that deals with this lawsuit, by the way, because the top bankers or whales they call out there, that's another name they use for people that have a lot of wealth or hold a lot of cryptos or billions. They call those whales, especially the ruling class or the super elite. By the way, they don't want, because they want to make people poor. Mind you, this is a plan of the Democrats, by the way. And I wanted to say this on a side note. I had a subscriber that reached out to me. There was another conference call. Some of you guys asked me who the gentleman was. I had reshared earlier a while ago. That was Nick Fleming. I didn't know he was still doing conference calls, by the way, but that's another call that I listened to. And I think he said something on there about some woke people. And I wanted to say, Nick, I'm not really one of those people who you think. I thought you were referring to me. He said like some other channels as well. I do have legitimate sources, maybe not as high up as you do, but I do like listening to your call. But the guy that you're referring to, who you refer to quite a bit, is my guy. If you kind of read between the lines, I'm speaking in code somewhat. Number 45, yeah, that is my dude. Even though I've mentioned in the past, obviously, some may not agree with, the particular individual's views on certain topics and things of that sort. But overall, I have not personally, just to put it out there on a side note, because this stuff is tied in with this topic that Nick talks about, stuff dealing with the reset, the Iraqi dinar. And I was hearing some newer information that they've changed the system. They've been changing things. It's been an evolving situation. And I've matured throughout the years. I've grown from this. I left my older videos up to kind of see how you guys have seen how I've grown, how I've matured. And I've just been patient for years, because I see the elites, the ruling class, are ultimately in control of the good. A friend of mine refers to it as the good cabal. So I'm not one of those people you refer to, Nick. I know it's like, I don't control this when this happens. I've had people come to me and ask me, do I have the 800 numbers? Some people don't believe in that. But I do give a disclaimer out there, to each his own. But I'm sharing the information as a messenger. But I just wanted to defend myself, Nick. I rock with you, and I do agree with you on the things you said about Biden. And I think because Biden is a Democrat and his handlers are people behind the scenes, Democrats, I've heard for years, they want to make you poor. They want you on a welfare state. And what they did to my people many years ago, when I would bring up reparations and things of that sort, I was informed by one of my sources that's very well studied with history that we should have received reparations back in the 60s. And the reason they wanted to control Black people better, the ruling class elite, what some refer to as the Illuminati, attacked Black people first and used Black people as a pawn on a chessboard. By the way, before they went after other ethnic groups and other races, they used the welfare state. Because remember, Lyndon Baines Johnson was quoted on record after they assassinated Kennedy years ago. And he was part of that operation, Lyndon Baines Johnson. He said, I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. After he signed that civil rights bill with Martin Luther King was at the White House that Kennedy had put together, that was actually created by Republicans based off of original legislation from Republicans. By the way, original civil rights bill that Republicans put together. I was informed. That's what Kennedy based that Civil Rights Act off of. And by the way, historically, a lot of Black people, minorities don't know their true history. Black people were Republicans before they switched over predominantly to the Democratic Party. By the way, Black people were, for example, Frederick Douglass was a Republican. Republicans, they were the abolitionists that fought to end slavery, that fought to free Black people. Abraham Lincoln historically was a Republican, and I'm not pushing no critical race theory. This is part of American history. And they actually already taught at some schools, by the way. It's part of our American history and world history, which I did take in high school and middle school and elementary school. I had social studies, different names, history, science. This is part of our culture, which I know a critical race theory, that's a separate thing, but this ties in. But a lot of this stuff, the cabal is using the Democratic Party, some refer to as the Democratic Socialists or Communists, which communism has always failed. It's never worked. Historically, it's always failed, socialism, in years past. This is what his history has proven. I actually learned this from a history teacher years ago. He made a quote by someone that those who do not learn from history are condemned to repeat it if you don't learn from the past. This was an actual quote. I just don't remember the famous person, but my history teacher mentioned this famous person, quoted this years ago historically, that if you do not learn the lessons of the past, they will repeat themselves. So I'm on the page with you, Fleming. 45 was my guy. And there's other things I won't go into that I'm aware of, by the way, because I do have moles out there. And I would say some of these moles don't have our best interest at heart. keep in mind that there's minions, gatekeepers, underlings. And I do believe Biden is a puppet. He has a handler behind the scenes. By the way, I think it's Barry Soetoro, in my opinion. It's not a coincidence, because I could see the overlay from the underlay from the very beginning. The dog and pony show appears as though they want to put Kamala in place. But there's something else I think that's going on. I won't go into details about, but I rock with you, Fleming. Just wanted you to know, in case you see this or some people that know about your channel get the word, say, hey, Dorsey, I'm an ally with you overall, Fleming. Just putting it out there. And I like Bruce's call too. I like the stuff you guys talk about. I rock with you guys. Just wanted to put that out there on a side note. But back to my notes and the topic, not to get off track. So I was going over, my source was telling me they want to get rid of the retail investors, which are the small fry people like me and you. Because like Fleming said, Biden, they don't have our best interests at heart. Democrats want us broke. I remember on Bruce's call, this relates to what Fleming's report mentioned, how Obama was stalling the RV, by the way, and really had, in my opinion, had no intentions, because Democrats want you on a welfare state. They want to bring in their great reset, which is universal basic income, poverty. They pretend to have the public's best interest at heart. In some instances, they do support policies that support minorities, but remember, or foreigners, but that's a cover for their overall agendas. They want to break the middle class. They want to get rid of the top middle class, middle class, poor middle class. They want everybody poor. This is what Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum says. He stated this. These are not my words on record. He wants people eating bugs and roaches by the 2030s and wants to get rid of meats. So a lot of this stuff is manufactured with the supply chain shortage, where they're killing in agriculture, they're killing farm animals, hurting crops and things. A lot of that, you have to do your research. Just put it out there. I won't go into all the details, but a lot of that is manufactured. That's coming from, that's why there's rebellions happening around the world with Sri Lanka. They're getting rid of their competition. That's why I heard allegedly they murdered the former Japanese prime minister. I heard he was against the New World Order. Allegedly, he was against, was a thorn to them, by the way. And that's why they used an assassin. They used some type of sawed-off weapon, because their gun laws are real strict over there in Japan. So they were sent in an assassin, I heard, allegedly, by the elites, the cabal. You know, they had minions and underlings, by the way, that do their evil works for them. So that's what's going on with that, to kind of sum up. There's a worldwide fight, because the evil cabal wants to destroy the planet, where the good cabal, they don't want to, of course, that to occur. And I've heard allegedly this thing with the Georgia Guidestones, that might be an inside job, because they feel they're going through with their plan, because they murdered a lot of people during the pandemic. I say with that that bug, you know, that they brought in, by the way, and that you know what else they brought in, not by coincidence. And I heard they're bringing something else in too. They want to bring back lockdowns by the fall, allegedly, to put a thorn to stop the elections, because they see Republicans, they're gaining a lot of momentum, or people on the right. I'm not a registered voter. I have not been registered since 2004. I don't vote anymore. So I'm politically neutral. I'm apolitical, whatever you call it. But I'm just putting out the information from the independent journalists out there that are not censored, the real information for we the people, accurate information that's not bought off by the mainstream media. I'm not paid by Soros. I've heard that he purchased Univision, because I heard allegedly not too long ago, the members of the Latin community, Hispanic population, kudos to, has been waking up tremendously. And they had been, that's a threat to the cabal, just like with Black people. They saw there was high numbers minorities, Black people starting to vote Republican. And they're like, oh, no, we got to do something about this. That's why I do believe that there was voter fraud that happened, despite Joy Reid with MSNBC trying to tell you otherwise, that did not occur, this, that, and other. Because I had a relative brought up, I was over there recently, and I said, man, they mentioned there's so much propaganda. And I told my relative, I didn't want it to start like kind of change, you know, it changes the energy, you know, you get into these political discussions. So I wanted to keep things neutral, because I have a lot of love for this relative, you know, I'm obviously close to. And they made some good chocolate chip cookies I had too that day. I got to give a shout out to. But some things we don't agree politically. It's fine. We can agree to disagree. But I said, hey, there was stuff that happened down in Georgia. She was defending Ruby Freeman. But I said, how would I know who Ruby Freeman was? If there's when there's fire, there's smoke. When there's smoke, there's fire. So I'm just saying they were bringing that up with her and her daughter, and I'm saying, I disagree with that. And I'm gonna tell it like it is. Because I said what I saw happen in Michigan. They threatened the 2 Republican board canvassers, Monica Palmer and William Hartman, and the Attorney General. They did provide police protection, but she didn't charge the people who threatened them. One of them being the minister on a live Zoom meeting, and another guy from Ann Arbor, and then it was another person. They never went after those persons or prosecuted them. But when the Democrat was threatened by some phone call from some people out of Chicago, she went after those people. So I see there's a lot of bias coming when just being politically neutral, that the Democratic Party, which I think in my opinion has been captured by the ruling class elite, billionaires who have co-opted it and are using it basically to push their New World Order agenda, their totalitarian state. By the way, this is the real information, just in my opinion, but I'm not going to get into that. But maybe down the road on Rumble, by the way, in case anything happens over here, I kind of went over this in a previous video. You guys can find me. I have only 2 videos over there, so I'm gonna have to work on getting some more videos on Rumble so I can go more into the election stuff, because I just let my relative know I can cover this from so many angles to prove that there was actual fraud that was committed, by the way. And it was individuals that were just negligent. And remember, also, the judges didn't want to hear the cases. They didn't even proceed forward. Then you had Antrim County, Michigan, where that was admitted. That was even on our local news, where they flipped votes from Trump to Biden. But then when they discovered it, and the guy in that county up towards the northern part of Michigan, this is before you get to the thumb, he had to hire a lawyer because he knew his county voted Republican. He had to hire a lawyer, and he found out after hiring a lawyer to investigate that they corrected the error. So you mean to tell me that didn't happen at other precincts and other places? And then not to mention what happened in downtown Detroit, where they covered up the screens with pizza boards. Why would you have to do that? I'm just saying, I'm not a registered voter. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I don't have a pony in the race. In one sense, I can really give a shit. I don't really care in one sense, but in the other eye, I do care, where they're lying to the general public in an egregious fashion or gaslighting. It's very concerning, by the way, because, I just started seeing numbers rise at wee hours in the morning, raises an eyebrow, because I'm just saying, if it was totally fair, once again, I just want to defend myself and say, I've seen races where Democrats were competing against each other, like our former mayor, Kwame Kilpatrick, and it was shared with me by some of these same individuals in years past, that conveniently, the other guy that was going against Kwame, was his name Freeman, I don't remember his first name, was whooping them in numbers, was set to win that night, as become the new mayor. And all of a sudden there was a power outage, but Kwame was saying ahead of time, watch God move, watch God move. And conveniently, they had a power outage at Mumford High School, very similar to, I heard, the 2018 midterms, when the guy that's the lieutenant governor, Garland Gilchrist, that's like the equivalent of Gretchen Whitmer's vice president, they call the lieutenant governor, he's a black guy, was running against the city clerk, Janice Winfrey, who was rumored, by the way, that night they were allegedly going back to put new votes and bring them to the Cobo Hall, which has changed the name to TCF Center, which got bought out by Huntington Bank after that. Coincidence. But I heard that similarly, he was running against Janice Winfrey for city clerk, and he was in the lead, winning tremendously. And all of a sudden, a power outage happened at a school. And when the lights came back on, her numbers shot up, and the rest is history. So those were both Democrats. And they've been on record, Democrats have been on record in years past, by the way, complaining about elections. Like when I voted, after I turned 18, I was already in college, and I felt really proud being a good citizen, a good American. Some of you guys know to read between the lines. That's a contractual term. When Gore lost, and I was upset, and things, it really wouldn't have mattered, because I learned back then the difference. Now they were two heads of the same snake, because he was a member of Skull and Bones, just like his opposite Bush, like John Kerry, very similar. But Trump, difference, he's outside the establishment. I've never seen him part of the secret society. I could go more in depth, stuff like that. I told a friend of mine who's a black Republican that I heard his father was, but I've never seen Trump in any Masonic gear, paraphernalia. I think he's outside the establishment. And that's whenever you go against the system that's comprised of people that are part of the secret societies, they take you out or they do something to make your life difficult, in my opinion. And that's why just using common sense, what I see from the outside looking in. So it's like, what can you do? I don't know if things, how they're going to play out exactly, but when I give my opinion, I just got to be real about it. I'm saying. But to get back on topic here, so they're potentially trying to get rid of retail investors because of the potential Ripple buyout since I heard allegedly, I don't know if this is as a result of that lawsuit, that it looks like XRP is going to win. They may have to pay out $37,000 per coin. I didn't even sign up for that. I heard something after that they may offer a buyout because the elites are going to shoot it up sky high. I heard they're going to really raise the price down the road. Like we already know it's bound to go up, but I heard because that's going to be one of their main coins, they're going to be using part of their new ledger system. So it would behoove you if there are any other cryptos you hold, make sure you hold a bunch of XRP and some of the others. And Stellar, I heard, is one of them. It's like they're joined at the hip. Stellar and XRP are like similar to the Iraqi dinar and Vietnamese dong. They're like brother and sister. I heard they're joined at the hip. Stellar and XRP do the same thing. But I also hear allegedly HBAR is one to look out for similarly. And Digibyte has newer technology or that allows to facilitate banking transactions that can facilitate at a fast, high rate of speed based on new technology, allegedly. So I heard just something to keep an eye on. And they may connect it with the ISO system. I don't know too much about the interledger system, that it's going to be a worldwide system that's going to assist the way that it facilitates banking transactions in an efficient manner at a high rate of speed. And then eventually some of these main coins will be pegged to the commodities market too, by the way, which was an eye opener that my private source shared with me, which is critical. So just keep your eyeglasses on and pay attention. And I'm not the only channel that has talked about this. There are other channels that are public out there that have covered this topic. If you know how to research, you know what to look for. They are out there dealing with the ISO interledger system. And I actually just discovered this recently. I haven't looked at some myself, but I just want to find out that even the newer information with the ISO system. And I said, wow, they are already out there. It says, so he was saying this might not happen because they may get locked out because the exchange may not allow you to buy it. That's where they want to regulate retail investors out of existence. He was saying that's why you want a hard ledger wallet, because anything you own on the public exchanges, remember, exchanges can be hacked if you don't own the private keys. So, and they're also coming down with regulations like members of our Congress, as I got finished mentioning, Democrats, especially Biden and the cabal. They want to potentially regulate a lot of coins out of existence. So I heard down the road, I don't know when that's going to happen. I heard if you're not invested in these main coins as a precaution, you want to be invested in these main coins that I went over earlier. But if you're not, if you're invested, especially like in a lot of meme tokens and things down the road, some people say I'm not selling until 2025. They may pull the plug long before then. You may not want to wait that long. You may want to sell those and get more stable coins like Stellar, XRP, that are going to be part of that new banking system. Or learn how, because I heard this is how they're going to potentially regulate a lot of coins out of existence, because Democrats and a lot of the regulations have been coming from Democrats, Democratic Socialist Party, Democratic Communists, because they want people poor and they want you controlled through a welfare state, or UBI, which is an acronym for Universal Basic Income. So just something to keep in mind. Get a Faraday bag to protect your hardware wallet from being tracked off the grid. My source was mentioning it will also protect from an electromagnetic pulse if it was to ever be released. That's what Klaus Schwab was also talking about with the World Economic Forum. Because keep in mind, the elites, their religion is Satan. They're evil. They're very, very evil. And they want to do some wicked things. And I heard he mentioned that. This is where Alex Jones, by the way, with Band.video, if you stay abreast of the information, he goes over, he actually showed the video footage of Klaus Schwab saying this on record. So these are not my words, but you have to research it, by the way, where Klaus Schwab has said this on record. And they pretend to be the good guys. They pretend to have the world's best interests at heart. And remember, the World Economic Forum is a cover for also the Davos group, which is the daylight version of the Bilderberg group, which is based out of Davos, Switzerland. That's members of many of the ruling class elite that are connected of Germanic descent. They reinstituted the Third Reich. I heard about from years ago. They re-implemented that. They have been in power for a long time. They have connections to the royal family. Remember when the royal family, the British, got upset that some paparazzis, tabloids, had released footage of the Queen of England, some of the older family members doing the Nazi salute, because Prince Philip, who just died, the one who was 90-something years old, who was married to the Queen, that just died not too long ago. I heard he was good friends with, that guy Adolf years ago. They don't want you to know that. So I heard they went after those photographers from the tabloids over in England. Just was put out that showed old pictures of them doing Nazi salutes that shows this stuff is deep, but these bloodlines, if you learn from David Icke reading his books, they're interconnected, like Angela Merkel. You don't get in those positions of power by coincidences. You have to be bloodline, meaning related somehow. And other types of connections, you also have to be part of the secret societies. That's part of your initiation. That's why a lot of lawyers, a lot of judges are Masons, are part of sororities, fraternities. Some instances, to move higher up, they have to do blood sacrifices. You have to sacrifice someone you love and things of that sort. So keep in mind, those persons don't get in those positions of power by coincidences, and they're very evil what their plans are. And they don't want you to find out. But this was put on the record. There's people out there. So you want to make sure you go to other video web hosting sites that don't censor, like Rumble, get the real information. Go to Alex Jones's Band.video, freeworldnews.tv, that puts out real good information. Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, Brighteon.com. By the way, if Alex has mentioned he's had to change his URLs because of the censorship, he's received DDoS attacks. So go to InfoWars as a backup, Infowars.com. That should be linked to his, you know how these newer platforms have like their TV web hosting sites, web browsers that take you to their video sites where they have reporters that researches the information. He shows not the people that just listen to the radio broadcast, but if you can see the video portion, he'll show the actual documents and stuff like that on the screen. He has the technology. He's got staff of people that work for him. Very good quality information compared to CNN and MSNBC. He's not a conspiracy theorist as they claim. I heard CNN did a recent hit piece on him, and a lot of those are lies. That's not true, because they want to use him because he's been waking people up to the New World Order for a very long time. Even though it doesn't mean you have to necessarily agree with everything he says. I don't, or his whole political ideology. But he has been someone that has put himself on the front lines to warn the people, and I have to respect that, by the way. So the mainstream media, of course, is going to make him, like many others, appear. They're going to use the word conspiracy theory, which that term was actually invented many years ago by the FBI or the CIA. Don't quote me. Sometime back in the 60s, I heard, you have to look it up. But the FBI and CIA, you know, they're related, just like MI5, MI6. That's like England's version, like the James Bond movies, by the way. So they invented that term conspiracy theory, I was informed, to cover up the Kennedy assassination many years ago, to create the storyline where Lee Harvey Oswald was a patsy, just like Osama bin Laden. They said he was the lone guy that took down the Twin Towers in New York. So they have to come up with like a fake story. Then the Warren Commission was comprised of Freemasons, covered up the further investigation. And I heard certain reporters had to redact what they said back then. I don't remember if it was Tom Brokaw or one of them when he was a lot younger, who it was, or Ted Koppel, I can't remember, that was quoted, said something, they deleted the footage, but some people had kept the footage or archived what he stated back then, because it's been since declassified that the Italian mafia worked with the United States government Secret Service to sadly assassinate Kennedy at the time. And he was doing some things to empower the people, to bring us back on the gold standard. You look up his executive order 111100. By the way, he was also one of a few who was working with Black people. He's the reason why a lot of Black people switched over to the Democratic Party. A lot of people don't know this, because Kennedy and his younger brother, his other brother, Robert, were the only two. Unlike Ted, Ted was with the deep state. No, he met Obama and everything, but Robert and John were genuine, by the way, and they actually were helping minorities out, similar to what Trump, how Dr. Ben Carson and others, Dr. Robert Johnson, who started BET, Black Entertainment Television, who's a billionaire, multi-billionaire, who actually agrees with reparations, actually met at the White House with Trump. CNN would never report this or show this when Trump was currently president, because they want to try to direct a certain narrative to Black people. But Robert Johnson, who sold Black Entertainment Television, he sold it to Viacom. He was also friends with Hillary Clinton originally, but he wanted to know what all this stuff was about when Trump first got elected. And behind the scenes, similarly, how Martin Luther King, by the way, years ago, a lot of people don't know this history, was a registered Republican, by the way, and applied for a gun purchase permit. It's either in Alabama or the state of Georgia before he was assassinated and murdered, was working with the Kennedys behind the scenes and started something called the Poor People's Project. So similarly, in modern day society, Kennedy was a Democrat back then, but a lot of people don't know, but a lot of the Blacks like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, they were registered Republicans. They knew the history that the Democratic Party, actually, there's some more history, more so was responsible for re-enslaving Black people. After the slaves were freed, they sent slave catchers after Black people, because a lot of Black people don't know. This is part of American history, once again, and world history. This is not critical race theory, but just putting it out there. What happened was Abraham Lincoln, who was a Republican, worked with abolitionists like Frederick Douglass, was a Republican. Harriet Tubman, believe it or not, she was allies with the Republicans. She was actually given a rank by General Brown. She fought on behalf of the Union. Even though I know Lincoln wanted to preserve the Union, so the South, which was comprised the Confederacy, that was the Democrats. That's why a lot of military bases, majority are down south, like Fort Hood, Fort so-and-so, because they controlled the South. And the Democrats burned down Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, by the way. That was the Democratic Party, which started the Ku Klux Klan, by the way, which were Democrats that were at their highest peak and voted for the Jim Crow laws and the Black codes. This is on record. You can look this up historically. This is historical fact. I'm going over highly accurate, potent information. I'm tying this all in because a lot of people don't know their real history. I had to research this recently because I have several friends that are historians. I'm very well studied in certain aspects of history, and I did do my homework. So you guys may not know, I don't know why Obama quotes Abraham Lincoln a lot, but Abraham Lincoln, in case you guys don't know, he was a Republican and he belonged to a previous political party that was disbanded. Recently, the History Channel did a very good story about Abraham Lincoln and some of his allies. So what happened was he wanted, there was restitution and stuff during the period of Reconstruction for Blacks. And what happened after Lincoln was assassinated, one of the presidents that took over redistributed ownership of land back to white Caucasian slave owners. By the way, he had compassion because the South was mad that they lost the Civil War, but they were promised the Black unions, that Black soldiers who fought for the Union were promised by the general at the time. They were received, that was part of the reparations, the 40 acres and a mule. So the United States government never properly repaired the damage. And that's why when you guys hear me bring up reparations, by the way, in the 60s, they gave us welfare state benefits. That's what Democrats want. That's why Lyndon Baines Johnson, who's quoted on record, saying I'll have those N-words voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And they also don't tell you Martin Luther King went against the establishment before he was assassinated, because he started speaking against the Vietnam War. I saw the actual video footage. And Michael Imhotep from the African History Network tried to shut me down some years ago in a way. And I discovered, I was like, why did he snap back at me? And I said, because he's part of a fraternity. And see, I don't belong in any fraternities. I never went through no official initiation. But you'll see a lot of these bourgeois boule people that cover this real history up that is not told, by the way. And that's what blacks shouldn't have never, temporarily stayed Democrats. They should always have been Republicans. But if these Negroes would know their real history, you would understand it was the Democrats who did more damage historically. And that's why they're some of the main ones that block reparations, because they want you controlled. You see, a lot of people don't understand that, but it was the Republicans who Abraham Lincoln was adamant. He was a Republican. He was adamant about freeing the slaves. This is not critical race theory. Once again, this is part of world history and American history. This is on record. History Channel. So there's other things to check, but they covered up. The Ku Klux Klan also lynched over 1,000 white people. They covered this up too, that they called sympathizers with minorities, Negroes at the time. The movie Mississippi Burning some years ago covered this, and the state of Mississippi created their own version of the Black Codes, by the way. I learned that because the New York Times lied and said Jim Eastland was a plantation owner that Joseph Biden was good friends with our current president. But the, New York Times lied and tried to say James Eastland was a Republican. No, James Eastland was a Democrat, and he was a plantation owner, just like Strom Thurmond, by the way. So what the Democrats did, what they're doing, they're using public relations. So years ago, when they passed civil rights, they're doing things where they shuck and jive during election time or do things for social justice to appeal to Black people and minorities. But they're only doing that when you understand the real history, what happened, because they want to control the narrative. Like they control the mainstream media. They control the court system. They're liberal, like California is liberal. New York is liberal. That's why Republicans, conservatives generally don't stand a chance in California and New York. See, I didn't know about this thing years ago, but I learned as I started learning and waking up to this information. And I found out about Jack and Jill. By the way, that's something else I will cover. It's like a secret society for Black girls years ago, why they empower the girls on purpose years ago and empower the women to destabilize the men, because the men generally have a tendency to be the alpha males or to be the leaders of society. So that's why they put men on psychotropic drugs, which Dr. Umar Johnson covered. I don't necessarily agree with everything he believes in and his ideology, similar to Alex Jones, to show a well-balanced perspective. I've actually met Dr. Umar before, but if you want to know, I'm also Pan-African. By the way, I'm RBG. I support red, black, and green, by the way, but I also know the real history. Blacks were originally Republicans. Frederick Douglass, who else? Booker T. Washington was Republican. And Harriet Tubman, they don't tell you, she fought for the Union Army, and General Brown back then actually gave her a rank, by the way, and made her a general or a high-ranking position. I can't remember all the details. You guys have to look it up. He had so much respect for Harriet Tubman at that time. And Abraham Lincoln was adamant before the Republican Party was formed, because the Democrats were causing so much trouble, by the way, back then, even lynching their own whites and others and things. They had to do something. That's when the Republican Party was created, when you look up the history, but he was part of a previous political party. See, a lot of this stuff is untold. This is not a long, long time ago in history, because Democrats go back far, but they only want to go back or mention things when it's convenient, but they don't want you to know about their racist roots and how they play a critical role in blocking reparations, but they try to put all the blame on the Republicans. You see, and I know about the establishment, about the two heads of the same snake, but there are some people you have to understand where you're not part of the establishment. That means you're not a Mason, you're not a part of the fraternity, or you're able to go against the establishment, the ruling class. That proves you're not establishment. That's what some people don't understand. And that's why I had to raise my voice to place emphasis, because there was people out there, talking about like they're saying Trump was part of the establishment. No, he's not. That's why they were able to do what they did. But fortunately, he had a lot of allies, because Dr. Shiva who's one of the smartest men in the world, who was one of the inventors of the current email service that we use, mentioned during Mike Lindell's symposium, by the way, I only watched that portion on Rumble, that government orders came from high up while Trump was still currently president to undermine him and actually just go through with not allowing any investigations to proceed or move forward. That's disturbing. That's like almost on a level where Kennedy's, remember there's Secret Service guard years ago from the Zapruder film, other portions of the film that showed them waving off a Secret Service agent. And he was like, why am I being waved off? Because he probably wasn't a Mason. And the Warren Commission, who was comprised of Freemasons, covered up that investigation. Woo! Am I mentioning some heavy stuff? So connect the dots, use critical thinking. You see, I know I'm going over a lot. This is high-powered information, but you know, it just irks me that not only a lot of my people, but a lot of people out there don't know the real history. As far as now, I'm not to try to throw people under the bus too. Don't get me wrong, because I have good friends. I have a close friend, by the way, and a mentor that actually is a traveling man. That's all I'll leave it at. And some others I met out the years. And he's told me personally, he even got on some for like not upholding principles of integrity, being their brother's keeper, and things of that sort. Because we know people become part of things to abuse their power and stuff. So I'm not speaking of all people that are Masons. There's good people that are part of fraternities, sororities that mean well. Some just may not know what they're part of or whatever. So just get that straight. I'm not trying to just throw like everybody under the bus, everybody's evil. No, that's not what this is. Because I know some people try to twist this around and, you know, to fit their narrative. No, but it's important you do meticulous research, history-wise, and you know who's who and what is what. So it's important to know who the evil ones are. So the Georgia Guidestones might be an inside job. A friend of mine was sharing with me because, you know, they brought in that pandemic, by the way, because he says they've accomplished their goal by murdering so many people already. So I don't know. It's even some reports out there. I can't confirm this, that the Georgia Guidestones were hit by a direct energy weapon. I don't know if that's true. Now, see, there's stuff that I can't prove. That's the actual conspiracy. It's a theory. And I won't get into that because that's something I can't prove. But the other thing I mentioned, that's declassified information. You know, where the government admits that they did something, there's things that are declassified as well. And keep in mind, remember when Trump was in office, he was trying to declassify all the Kennedy files, but they still made sure they redacted certain names because certain people were maybe still alive or had connections and they don't want you to know about the deep state or who their minions or underlings are. So they didn't declassify everything, but you can't accuse everything of being a conspiracy theory. There is information and reports, because remember the FBI did a report like a couple years ago or something where they put out a report and said not all conspiracy theories are inaccurate or something like that. See, I read the article and checked. Sometimes there's a way out, you know, or they give you a leeway. If they tell you a lie, they'll mix the truth in or hide the truth somewhere within the lie. And I said, I caught that, said, not all, because the government declassifies. Remember, I have a friend, you might know people that have gone into the military where they get clearances based on information that's given to them. And they're told to be quiet or stay shut. Now, I've never joined officially. You know, I was going to sign up, but I've met people privately that have shared things with me. And I may not have known originally that if they had secret security clearances. I found that out years later, by the way. So just keep that in mind, because I'm a researcher. I do research. So, but lastly, and getting ready to shut the video down, I'm going to go to the chat section, see how many of you guys join. But I had to redo the video because the first part didn't come out right. But I appreciate you guys rocking with me. I'm at the plantation. It's funny, I'm in a break room, and it's if you see me waving, they got like gnats in here. So that's what I'm pushing out the way. And it was a mosquito I killed earlier, by the way. I hate them little blood-sucking vampires, just me personally. So my source said, get a Faraday bag to protect your hardware wallet from being tracked off grid. It will also protect. So look into a hardware wallet. I haven't done that yet myself. I need to do that. My source got on me, and that's I have to hold the L You guys let me know if you guys are experts advanced. Let me know, is Exodus, is that still good if you don't have a hardware wallet yet? You know, I know there's different levels of security, but I'm just asking, just put it out there. Crypto.com is still considered online, kind of risky, some would say. But I know a lot of the top people have their cryptos on a lot of different exchanges as well. But, you know, you guys maybe know better than me, but my source did recommend. So I'm sharing it with you guys. I say that's on my wish list, but he recommended getting a hardware wallet. So in case if there's a massive power outage, EMP strike or whatever, you'll have access to your keys. If say if the internet, everything goes down, if you have access to a generator, a power station, or some type of backup source, you may be able to get online. Then you may be able to do an exchange if you have to do facilitate a transaction. If your bank is still up, if your bank hasn't gone down, because I heard some funny stuff may be happening with that as well. Between that, you may want to have between cash on you, cryptos, or precious metals. So I don't know exactly what they're planning, but it seems like something big. And food shortage as well. I did a video already on emergency preparedness. So I kind of touched on that on rising gas prices, hyperinflation. This is all not a coincidence. This is by design, by the way. So I was informed about that because they needed allegedly to collapse the system first before they bring in the new system. And I didn't know how this was going to play out. And they didn't tell us all this information up front when I attended that event many years ago. They weren't straight up. They didn't say like, oh, this is part of the global currency reset. We had to unfortunately find that out years later. So let me go to the chat section to see if you guys rejoin me, by the way. Oh, pulled the wrong. I'm gonna close that window out. Okay, see if you guys, okay. If you guys don't forget, let's get the thumbs up, get the likes going on in here. If you guys watching, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You're currently watching Dorsey's Resource. The title of this video is going to be Global Currency Reset, Connection to XRP, Banking Changeover to Crypto. I'm talking about, because my source, I went over earlier that the banks are going, allegedly, they're going to adopt blockchain technology, allegedly. So we might see the banks go down for a while, like a bank holiday may happen. I don't know how long that may be. So you may need to get cash out. You may need to have precious metals if you have to barter to go do a private transaction, if you need to get access to cash. If the electronic machines go down or your debit card or whatever doesn't work. I don't know how, but I'm just being informed that this is tied in with this. So I'm going to read the comments. Brian B says 5 by 5. James Wade says it's too late to get XRP as an investment. Oh, is it too late to get XRP? No, it's not, James, to answer your question. That's a good question. No, it's not. If KuCoin is still up, or something might happen with KuCoin, by the way, because a lot of these, some of these sites that are not regulated, remember that I was saying the Democrats want to make you poor. So they want to regulate a lot of retail investors out of existence and crush people like they did this big crash. Remember, we thought Bitcoin was supposed to hit at least 100,000 by this past December. Then they changed their plans again and decided to crash it earlier. And just said, bloop. And that was a surprise. I'm like, man, if I'd have known they went down by that much. So a lot of people's portfolios took a major hit, you know, but no, it's still nice. It's actually the best time to buy while it's still down. Even though Bitcoin is creeping back up somewhat, it's fluctuating. I don't know how to read the charts. Some people like Currency 365, I recommend become a member of his Patreon. I was for a while, but I'm budgeting my money, my currency. So I'll see how much, if he still has the $15. Also, Jay Snip Ford's channel, Snippy, has some really good information. But that's on a whole nother level. Like the people out there that are familiar with how to trade stocks and stuff, futures or commodities market, they're already good at cryptos because they already know how to trade with stocks. And it's a similar concept. So no, I would say to answer your question, James Wade, it is not too late. There's another exchange out there that's really good, but you can look up on YouTube. I can't think of the name of it, that sells XRP, I heard. And there's other ways, because I know a lot of exchanges, because of the lawsuit, when the lawsuit happened, they stopped allowing people to get access to it. WX2 says, you never lose money unless you panic. Sell at the wrong time. If you wait long enough, it always goes back up. It runs in 4-year cycles. Okay, I've heard that, yeah. Sometimes the cycles are still hard to predict because you got to be following, you have to be, make sure you're diligently checking the price every day. Just like I saw on the news years ago, guys that would read the stocks and the newspapers years ago, they would buy the newspapers and constantly stay abreast. So you just got to make sure you stay on top of it. Because I kind of stopped for a while because there's frustration when we're in a bear market where people, it's not a lot of excitement like different times of the bull market last year that we had. Then we had a super cycle back around April, May last year. There was a lot of excitement. But when it's like the prices are low, but that's when I heard Warren Buffett made a famous quote where he said, be greedy when others are fearful, something like that, maybe a little bit more to the quote. And that means like when there's panic, this is the time to buy. So this is when they say millionaires and billionaires are going to be made right now from people purchasing and make the right move. So I'm just saying, as a security, these cryptos that I went over, those are more of a safe bet. You can't go wrong with, by the way. Brian said, thanks for all you do. Appreciate you. Thank you for joining. WX2 says, Dorsey, I used to be in touch with you through email in 2017. You were advising me with paperwork, but then I started building a cryptocurrency mining farm and trailed off. Okay, not sure who you are. There's a lot of people I met. XRP was built to Becca bankers, to be the banker's coin. XLM Stellar and XRP was created by the same guy, Jed McCaleb. Okay, that's good information. My source was going over information like that too. Thank you for that information. I'm not familiar with Jade McCaleb. I have to look him up, but thank you for that information. D. Marie 333 says, HBAR signed a contract with the U.S. Department of Defense. I think government money is never small. XRP, thumbs up. XRP, yes. You did some serious homework. Very good info, all facts. I appreciate you, D. Marie. I think I remember you before when I've done some of the crypto discussions. You're very well studied. You know, you got your eyeglasses on. You know what's going on. It's good to hear that reassurance from you guys because, see, I learned from you all too. I don't know everything. I'm not a know-it-all. Dave Apex says, XRP might be great, but all of these botched history ruins the conversation. Oh, I'm sorry, David. Yeah, if I go into the history, it says, Dorsey, take a breath and realize you are just saying what they gave you breadcrumbs to find. Okay, I agree. I see where you're coming from. And I know sometimes I try not to go off, but I try to tie things in because of the politics, the political stuff. Because a friend of mine in D.C. was telling me, he told me not too long ago, he could clearly see, he was a Democrat. He used to be, that he said they want you poor. They want you on a welfare state. They want you controlled. And that's what I heard Fleming saying on a call that, you know, Biden doesn't want an RV and Obama. I was hearing that from Bruce's call. Those are two separate conference calls, people I've never met. And they're saying the same thing that I can clearly see, you know. So I'm just putting it out there because it's tied in with the history about the Democratic Party and the cabal, because some people don't understand what we're dealing with. They don't have our best interest, but it's important that you guys get empowered with the correct information because they, you know, it looks like they're setting a trap. Doorbat says, is there any way to be funded for our own private network? Our own private Batcave can't take everybody to the Batcave. Bruce Wayne is the public Batman, is a private kind, regards to seeing a fam. Yes, there is a way, and I'm working on that. I work on empowering people. This is not related normally like the videos I have been doing lately that pertain to redemption education. By the way, there's a guy out there, I've shouted out his name, his channel from previous video, and there's a lot of people, there's different content creators, because there's been a leapfrog in like the technology that deals with, some don't like to call it redemption education, sovereignty, whatever name, status correction. Different people have different names they call it, but I consider it's all the same to me. just me personally. Now, I refrain from using the term sovereign citizen. I don't use that term. I don't profess. I think that's a derogatory term that's used to discredit people, similar to how when I went over how they created conspiracy theorists to try to discredit, make people like look like they flew over the cuckoo's nest, make people look like they're crazy. So they use these terms, the mainstream media, to also throw people off because they want to control the narrative and they don't want people organizing as well. So I do try to empower people behind the scenes. Like there's a friend of mine who was a banker, and I was involved on a private conference call a couple weeks ago with this person, and I shouted out with 3 other people on this call, private meeting. And I mentioned my friend I would be in touch with probably, if not tomorrow, Sunday, trying to put him back in touch with the my source, just not saying the name, to try to develop some unity. And my one of my friends, I didn't know, he mentioned to me in the past, that's why I thought he could be a benefit as a banker. He actually has a bank and was working on some things, and has formerly has a brokerage license, by the way. And I've actually mentioned him in the past, by the way, but I'll be reaching back to make sure he's reached out to these other people, because I felt they could be of assistance to each other and trying to, accomplish what you mentioned in that comment, Dorbat. So hopefully I answered your question about, yeah, we're working on that, trying to form a network, because the good like-minded people, we're going to need to research together. And there's one guy that talks about things like that, that's on a site called Rumble. And he's also known as an analyst of time. He's been interviewed by other people, Bo Pony, because what we're dealing with, there's a spiritual battle that's going on. There's a scripture in the Bible that states, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the principalities and powers and darkness." That's part of the scripture. There's a little bit more. And I think that's in Ephesians. Don't quote me on it. For we wrestle. So we're in a spiritual battle, spiritual warfare, because the evil ones at the top, and I kind of went over earlier, there's others. They have gatekeepers. They have minions. They have underlings. And I kind of gave you guys somewhat of that infrastructure. So, keep your eyeglasses on, pay close attention, form alliances with like-minded people that you trust. Also make an assessment, vet people out, because some of these individuals, and some of them, the cabal people, they're not working for it. They don't have our best interest at heart, by the way. But keep in mind, if we come together, we have power in numbers. They can't stop us. That's why they want depopulation control, like what the Georgia Guidestone said, that allegedly, I heard the one that was taken down or blown up before they bulldozed the other ones down, that one was in English. But we have power in numbers. One can put 1,000 aflight, but 2 or more can put 10,000 aflight. So if you get a chance, go on Rumble, or even he has a YouTube channel, check out Bo Pony. I like his content. We're dealing with, there's a scripture in Isaiah, "In the year of the Lord's favor, the day of his vengeance, thy kingdom come, thy will be done." We're in the year of the Lord's favor, the day of his vengeance. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. But I will also say, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood." And there's some other scriptures that the Bible also talks about, "For the very elect will be deceived." And I see people, because what's interesting is I have this relative who I mentioned who is liberal, who taught me about the New World Order. And I'm amazed she taught me about the Antichrist. I remember Currency 365 did a video a while ago where they were asking, and I started to comment, but then I said no, because I was actually told by a private source who he believed, they said the Antichrist was going to rise out of allegedly out of the European Union. And I was given a name of a guy you can look up. I remember part of the name. I could find him again. Allegedly, I was informed that this guy will rise out of Germany, allegedly von Gutenberg, Theodore von Gutenberg. He had a real long name. I looked up on Wikipedia. I was like, what the hell? It was like when I saw this movie called Omen some years ago, like some stuff, some real deep stuff. Because the ruling class, their bloodline is a lot of times it's connected to Germanic descent. But like I said, I don't want to paint a picture. You have good good elites out there, a good cabal. We need to find those people. Like, I think Trump is a good elite. The other people like Obama, Hillary, Biden, Kamala Harris, and others, the Epsteins, those are evil people. You look up the history. They're pretending to be the good guys. They're not the good guys. Klaus Schwab. And let me say, the World Economic Forum and the Bilderberg meetings, they summons top CEOs of different corporations and industries and careers worldwide every summer. Generally speaking, I heard it was canceled the past two because of the pandemic, but they also had other secret meetings. I heard they met in Idaho earlier this year. They had a secret meeting that Warren Buffett was at and some other people. The Davos group, which is my friend of mine told me is the daylight version of Bilderberg. That's connected. That's Davos, Switzerland. I happened to look up, something told me one day. I looked at a map, a world map, and said Davos, Switzerland. I said, whoa. I said, these are some scary people. They don't have our best interest at heart. So you're going to need to warn people. You're going to need to form alliances with like-minded people. Get close to your loved ones that you trust. Because you don't want loved ones to turn on you. So you need to analyze their personality, their behavior. You need to see if they have a good heart, a good spirit. I've been told by people that said they can see I have a good spirit, but I don't want to be around. I prefer not to be around people that are deviant or divisive. I want to be around honorable people because I'm a man of integrity. And I'm not saying this makes me perfect, but there are people that are actively that know they're working for the other side. They're working for evil. And see, I work for good. I'm for the righteous. I'm not the children of the night. I'm not one of the children of the night, even though I work a night shift. The children of the night see the stars, but the children of the day see the Father. I'm a child of the Most High, prayed up, protected. But I was taught about the New World Order, and I'm really surprised to see that this relative can't distinguish that she's a liberal Democrat. That to me, they don't support the family structure. They've gone, I was watching MSNBC and they're talking about pedophilia and they don't like DeSantis. I'm not saying he's perfect, but he's going up against Disney. And if you know about Hollywood, and I just recently heard about that actor that came out, what's her name? I know her last name is McClane, and she really touched me. I didn't know she was saved, and I love that movie I found out she played in years ago called Daddy's Little Girls. When I saw that movie, I was actually staying with, at the time, I was involved in a certain situation I kind of had to escape from, like another situation with a street gangster, and they used to get movies and stuff for me. And I made a comment to that person about that movie, and they were actually criticizing me for liking that movie. Like they were analyzing my personality back then because they wanted me to be kind of like them. I'm not saying they were shady, but they weren't they were from the streets. And when I saw that actor, I want to watch her story again. She inspired me. Beautiful young lady. It's connected, I think, to Nickelodeon. She played in that movie, Daddy's Little Girls. I heard she came out as a whistleblower. Something happened. And I felt that I had something like that happen to me. And I'm going to pray for her. And I follow her on TikTok because I know she's seen some things because I feel that I've been through some things myself. And I'm telling her, if I had to tell my testimony again, that I'm a child of the Most High, and I was prayed over when I was a baby. You know, even though they wanted me to be an ordained minister and I didn't follow in those footsteps, I believe that wasn't God's calling for me. God had a different calling for me. And one sister I met, she told me that I'm on assignment. Sister I met some years ago out of the DC area. I won't say her name to protect her identity. She worked, had a government job, by the way. And she told me, she said, I'm on assignment. She was a Christian. So I want to put it out there that I'm for the good. I don't like, some of the things. I'm trying to warn the people, do my best as a messenger. And that's why I encourage you to get more spiritual, whatever your spiritual path may be. But I'm also open-minded and I'm awake to the truth, by the way. I'm not New Age, but I grew up in a traditional church, some call fundamentalist Pentecostal denomination, the Church of God in Christ. Then my parents eventually went to non-denominational, but my grandparents were Baptist. So I have a solid foundation and I'm spiritual. I read Mary Kay Baxter's book, Divine Revelation of Hell. I know about the astral realm. I used to practice astral projection years ago. I have some of the knowledge that some would be considered taught in the mystery systems years ago in ancient times. I have some of that knowledge. I was told by a source from a private consultation, she described it as, she said, I have jurisdiction, I guess, in certain areas that other people don't have. I thank her for the compliment and staying humble. I think it's people that are more advanced, but I understand because I've had outer body experience many years ago. I went through deliverance service and it changed my life and it touched me at the time. And I want to come back and bless the individual if I get the opportunity to, because this is going on for a very long time. But I always said I wanted to bless the man that opened up his home to me many years ago. The pastor out of Belleville, Michigan, was a great mentor at the time. I was a young man going through some things. And this stuff all ties in because you got to stay spiritually grounded for what's coming. Because see, the elites, they use different tactics the cabal uses. And I know some of you guys, like I'm into sports and stuff like that, entertainment, but I still come back and I still will pray sometimes. And I still will focus, meditate, because you want to be grounded because of what's coming down the road. But I do those other things, in your downtime, because a friend of mine asked me, how do you balance out this information? And I encourage you guys, whatever discipline or whatever practice that you're part of, I encourage that. If it's positive or whatever, I'm open-minded. I do accept other faiths, by the way, and discussing my belief system. But I'm just telling part of my testimony that you're going to need to be spiritually grounded for what's coming down the road. And I'm still not vaccinated either. I didn't take that poison, in my opinion. That's all I'll leave it at, because of course I can't talk about certain things. I can't go as in depth because you see the cabal controls YouTube, by the way. They're openly just big tech company. Now I appreciate getting the monetization, but they make it hard. Like they suppress my viewers. I notice I'm taking a sacrifice when I use this Zoom software versus using, what's that other software called? StreamYard. If I use StreamYard, I can get more views, guys. I've noticed something. It's something about StreamYard that passes through like the algorithms. Because I had some of you guys told me in the past, when my channel was censored, you guys knew a way how to check. And I got an email with my old email address. You guys were warning me. I said, Dorsey, something's going on. Even Currency 365, I think he checked my numbers. He's even been censored. So for what's coming down the road, we're going to need to definitely be spiritually balanced and grounded. So I don't want to mean to get off track, but I tell you guys, that was my part of my testimony. But I was so inspired by that actor that she came out, and I need to watch that interview again. I didn't finish watching all of it. She's down in Florida, but I was inspired. I just remember her last name was McLean because a friend of mine was familiar with her, but I didn't know she played in that movie, Daddy's Little Girls, years ago. I was a fan of that movie with that. I just know the actor Idris Elba. I don't really keep up with actors and stuff too much. Of course, I do keep up with sports like basketball, track and field recently, but a lot of actors I'm not familiar with. But she came out, she's a Christian, and I pray for her. She's going to be in my prayers because years ago, I went to Rod Parsley's church back in 1998 in Columbus, Ohio. I was going to college at the time down there, and I actually got a chance to see Tia and Tamara Mowry from the show Sister Sister came there in person one night right before the schools were set to start. Generally, towards the end of August, Pastor Parsley had preached a message. Had a youth service later that night. I had went to the Sunday service, but I found out from some coworkers. And at that time, I rededicated my life back to the Lord. He had an altar call. So at that time, this was in August of 1998 in Columbus, Ohio. Reynoldsburg, Ohio, I was living at the time. It's actually before I moved, right before I ended up moving back at the time. And I had a coworker, Cassandra, I worked with at Boston Market, another coworker that told me, and I was so excited. And I came that evening service, Pastor Rod Parsley preached the message, said, tomorrow may never be promised. He preached the message. It was based off the movie Saving Private Ryan, by the way. And later on that evening, he had an altar call and mentioned how to, and I thought about that. That struck me that tomorrow is never promised, that you can be here and gone just the next day. So it's important to make sure your soul is right with God, you know, because I still do believe in a creator, a most high, but it's deeper than I think so a lot of people can comprehend. Because I met a friend that actually had a similar experience, but his was more, I would say, more advanced an experience I went through years ago. When I had an out-of-body experience, I went through deliverance service. My friend actually died and was dead legally. He mentioned up to an hour and says, because the timeline is different, he lived 3 lifetimes within that hour because he was in that parallel paradox dimension or astral, that particular dimension. We came back where he said he could see his body and they were writing up his death certificate. He had been deceased that long. Some years ago, when he survived, he came back, and he was a blessing to me when I first met him many years ago and helped me understand things. And some people, when I didn't understand at the time, they thought he was crazy. When I went back to the church people and they say, oh, you know, this guy, you got Tony demons in you, and it was funny to me. But once later on, I was able to articulate and I understood what the lessons that I was learning. I see how it all comes together. You see, so I'm gonna read the rest of you guys' comments and I'm gonna get ready to shut the video down. Okay, somebody said, Dave Apex says, what happened to XRP? Okay, D Marie 333 says, it's hard to buy right now because they delisted on a lot of exchanges. Yes, they did that a while ago. Like I said, KuCoin is one of them. There's another one I can't think of the name of that you can just look up on YouTube. Just look up best places to buy or where to buy XRP. Type that in the search result. I can't think of the name because I did look at that exchange. KuCoin is like the only one I could think of offhand because a friend of mine asked me in person. But the exchange fees, they vary with different exchanges. There's some other ones, but like I can't think of it. And some you can use swaps, or you might be able to use like those swap exchanges. But I wouldn't really mess with those. You might have to use, it may be a larger fee if you use those. So I would do the research first, go on YouTube, because a lot of people, there's crypto experts, by the way. Maybe down the road, that could be something I could talk about more often. I know Currency 365 suggested that. And I could do a video, maybe a basic video, where to buy it, where to purchase XRP, because I think TC, Twisted Christian, does videos like that to help the people. So maybe, and he may have covered that already. I like the content that he puts out as a contributor, the Currency 365, TC. Dave Apex says Trump warp speeded the jab, and you say he's a good guy. That's the one thing I forgot. I would say I disagree with him on that stance, by the way. Yeah, you are right about that. And a lot of his supporters, remember that he was booed at a couple rallies over that. Because see, that shows we're thinking logically. We're not just going, Dave, by the mainstream media. See, my relative, it seems like to me, for example, I'm just using this as an example. I love this person. They taught me about the New World Order. They taught me about the Antichrist, the mark of the beast. But they seem to be drinking the Kool-Aid from MSNBC and CNN. And I'm like, you can't see in between, like, they're more on the side of the chip. And this person ended up getting the jab. Now, I'm not knocking people who did, because I know they blackmail people. I almost was tricked into that myself, and still I'm trying not to, because I heard they plan on bringing lockdowns back and ultimately defying the Supreme Court, which I've never seen anything like this. And it's mainly coming from the left. It's not coming from the right. And that's what I'm saying overall. So, but I think Trump was tricked into it by Fauci and some other things. And he even quoted on record, said Pfizer had more power than he had as president. Trump is quoted on record saying that. And that's something to think about. This is a fact. Trump said Pfizer had more power than he had as president. So just something to think about, Dave Apex. I understand where you're coming from, but I can still evaluate, unlike some people, dummies that just buy everything. And that's why, but I'm also not a registered voter too. So I'm coming from an apolitical standpoint. I don't have a pony in the race. I still do respect people's process of voting. I just don't want to be connected to the negative consequences that come behind me being a registered, and there's other things because I'm a minority. too. There's other reasons I know about behind the scenes many of you all may not be aware of. I won't go into those details because that's neither here nor there. But if that's what you choose to do, that's on you. But I also told this relative, if you are registered to vote, shouldn't you receive a return on your investment? Why are a lot of politicians not fulfilling the request of their constituents, the people that voted for them? But they start to change it up. They're all nice when they get in, and then they turn into a gremlin once they get in that position of power. You have to question that too. Just saying, the Kennedy film had 2 motorcycles pop up from the thin air, and you want to reference in it. Okay. Don't know what that's kind of in relation. I just touched on what I saw. Says DeMarie 333 says quant is looking like it's going to be huge too. The 2-headed phoenix is crazy and absolutely the truth. Yeah, I had somebody here that came last November that mentioned quant. I heard that's another big one, even though it's a little bit more expensive. I could actually, maybe even a smart move for me, possibly. But I still, if I swap my Litecoin for quant, but I don't know. You know, I prefer, I don't like, because the swapping, I think you still take a hit in the fees and stuff. You have to be careful when it comes to that. Well, guys, I'm gonna get ready to shut things down. I'm gonna try to run through these comments. You guys are on jam. I wasn't expecting you guys to be this deep sometimes, but you guys have been more lately. I know it's been a while, and like I said, I'm redoing this video because the first one I uploaded earlier this night, evening, or early morning, didn't upload, so that's why I'm redoing it. Thank you guys for letting me know I didn't have any sound, by the way, in that previous video. I deleted that. Okay, says Dave Apex says, know what happened to talking about XRP. DeMarie says, I don't think he knew at the time, though. Trump did that to give you more breadcrumbs. DeMarie says, I like Exodus. Okay, thank you for the compliment on Exodus wallet. I had a question. I was wondering about that. It says, I don't trust Coinbase, though. Got you. You also have Coinbase Pro. Some people don't know about Coinbase Pro. If you already have a Coinbase account, I met a guy who's actually one of my private sources who's advanced. I told him at the time, I don't know if he knows now, but I said, it's actually your same password as Coinbase. You have access, because they bought the GDAX exchange some years ago, and that became Coinbase Pro. So if you have a Coinbase account, you have access to Coinbase Pro, which is like a sister site that's set up to make exchanges more easier or basic for you, to kind of assist you. So I'm not knocking Coinbase, the people who did it, but I do understand the concern. I think that's mainly coming from politicians, Democrats who I mentioned earlier. They want to regulate retail investors like you and I out of existence, not the big whales or the qualified institutional buyers, but the small fry people. You got to think, why would they be trying to do that? Like, remember what Robin Hood did with the GameStop scandal? Got to think something similar. So you guys got to start peeping who the real bad guys are. I'm just saying they mostly are aligned with the Democratic Party. Just putting it out there. Chi Vegas says, peace, peace, Dorsey. And you dropping diamonds as usual. However, I heard the Hoover Dam was suspect as well. Okay. Yeah, I heard. Yeah, we could be possibly facing some weather changes. Be on the lookout. Some earthquakes, and emergency preparedness, rising fuel prices, part of hyperinflation. So yeah, it's time to get prepared. You know, backup storage devices, batteries, flashlights are going to be important for places that live in low areas that have low sea level, near the tides, near the water. Rafts, inflatable rafts, in case you have to flee your family. What do you call those? Life vests. I may need to get those myself because sea levels are rising. People live in places that are only so many feet above sea level. I told a sister recently I met in Clearwater, Florida. When I lived in Orlando some years ago, the highest point in Florida was only 330 something feet above sea level, and the lowest part was only like 35 feet above sea level. Florida is projected to go completely underwater one day. I don't know when that timeline exactly, but there's like the US Navy has a new map of the United States. So you want to check with, if you have friends who are geologists, scientists, on what places to move to. Be careful moving to certain places. You want to check the geographical regions because they could be more prone to fault lines. Like we know California not only has the San Andreas fault, it's also got the Cascadian fault line, which runs up, I think, to Portland or Oregon. You have to watch. And I discovered another fault line in Yellowstone Park. It's like a super volcano. They have a name for it, like an inner volcano. And if that goes, can wipe out a significant portion of the West Coast. And I think I've heard certain parts of Yellowstone, they've actually had to stop from actually people from like certain springs that have like hot, where people have been, animals have been burned alive going in there by mistake, hot springs or whatever. They've had to section off. And I think they put that in a movie. Check out 2012, that movie 2012, some years ago, that had these arcs. But we are facing, I don't know the exact timelines, because of course they're keeping that secret. They don't want to cause panic. But I heard behind the scenes for years, the government's been buying a lot of food. They've been buying coffins. You know, remember that episode that Jesse Ventura did some years ago on True TV with that show he had called Conspiracy Theory, that episode with Alex Jones? And they only allowed that to air once. And they said it got so many views. And that was while Obama was president, that Homeland Security shut that episode. They didn't allow it to air anymore after that. They only aired that one time. So what were they telling you? See, I only like to talk about things that I know. You know, that actually something that happened. So I won't get into the conspiracies about the Georgia Guidestones. What happened? Some people said that was hit by a directed energy weapon. I don't know. But I can tell you stuff that has been reported on. I'll talk about that. Yeah. To show I'm trying to be, you know, accurate, reputable. I'm not trying to just go way far off, you know, try to have information that is concrete, something solid you guys can hold on to. Dave Apex says that, Dorsey, please explain why JFK and Jimmy Carter's ears match perfectly. Okay, that I don't know. That's a lot to kind of go into details. I feel where you're coming from. I do get into stuff like that. And I said I would probably, if I create a Patreon account or sometime down the road, I can find a platform that doesn't censor as much, that where I would be able to do live feed, because Rumble to do live is paid for and they don't have a free version yet. They still are growing exponentially, but you know, I don't have deep pockets like that yet. You know, I'm already cashing out for Zoom. It's already a little over like 15 a month, and then I'm a member of another channel. So, you know, I don't have deep pockets like that, but down the road, I will be able to, I'll call that the X-Files, and I'll talk about other topics that some of you all that want to know about stuff. I have had some of you guys came to me a while ago, say, hey, Dorsey, we want to know about stuff like that, or we like the books that you showed. Some people wanted me to go over that, but see, that gets esoteric, and some people can't handle that information. And keep in mind, YouTube is very public, and I can't control if there's agents or gatekeepers or minions or bad actors out there watching this content. You know, because some of them try to watch this information, because I was telling a friend of mine, I think some of the information I was sharing was getting all the way back up to President Obama, because I have a relative who's worked the Democratic Party, and then I found I have a friend from some years ago who worked Obama's campaign. So I said there may be a mole somewhere, and because see, they're trying to learn, they're trying to figure out how to enslave us better. And see, I'm not, when I go over this information, I'm not trying to enslave people. When I wanted to get access to my wealth, when I attended that private clandestine operation some years ago, I just simply wanted to get cashed out. I didn't know that it was going to be where I was going to find out, and it was going to take me down a rabbit hole. I didn't know it was going to go this deep. And I wasn't trying to cause or stir up any problems. I just want to get cashed out so I can live my life and just be on. But it's these scumbags, these elite evil ones at the top that's causing this trouble. You got to really pay attention to, and who their minions and underlings are, and their gatekeepers. You got to pay attention to who they are so you can distinguish the difference. But I don't talk about or cover that because, of course, the censorship on YouTube. So maybe I'll do a separate video, maybe that's unfiltered. I won't be able to go live. I'll just have to upload it to Rumble, or if you guys have any other platforms that you recommend, you guys let me know. I am on True Social now. That's Trump's newer platform. I'm not on Frank's Speech. That's Mike Lindell's platform. And then there's another competing platform with Twitter that's called Getter, where a lot of conservatives, people, independent content creators, people who have been censored are now on a lot of these other platforms. I did a feature video where I talk about, but some of these newer platforms have just recently popped up, like True Social, frankspeech.com. That's Mike Lindell's platform. I'm on Parler still. I'm still on there. I kept my Instagram account. That's my more liberal side, by the way, because I'm balanced, to let you guys know. Even though I'm not a registered voter, I'm balanced, but I'm very well studied. I know my history very well, especially, you know, some of the stuff that I brought up. And the reason I brought that up early, because a lot of minorities, people are brainwashed. They're not telling you the real information, and they're getting paid by the Democratic Party or to get you to vote. They're not telling you, they're making money, big campaign money and stuff behind the scenes. And I'm not getting a cut of that. So that's why I canceled my voter registration, because I said, what is it benefiting me? You guys aren't passing reparations. You guys aren't doing what you need to be doing for the people you were supposed to be doing in the first place years ago. And I even asked a relative I got in a debate with some years ago. I said, aren't you supposed to get a return on what you vote for? And isn't it my right as a free American to decide whether or not I want to choose to vote or not? That's still my choice, my freedom. Remember, certain politicians that wanted to make it mandatory to vote. You got to ask the question, why they want to make, you already had that freedom afforded through the Constitution. See, when they created this registration process, that's a contract, that's corporatocracy. See, they want to register you so they can make money and tap into your account like debt, like what do they call those subscription companies, debt collection companies, banks selling your information, data behind the scenes, Google. That's why they want you to register. It's a difference between registration and recording. You want to record, that's more of the de jure government. That's private, that's a Latin term for the common law, which many of these corporations started off of. See, all that registration, that's public. You want to be more so, well, for me, private, but if you want to believe, but we still do need people out there. If you are, I would recommend be a conservative. They're not trying to be a Republican. They're not trying to break apart the family structure. Don't mean I co-sign everything, but overall, the left, you can clearly see they're trying to push pedophilia, this thing with Disney. It's underlying undertone. It's being disguised as for the movement, for the alphabet community, but it's another agenda behind that. We saw, just look at Ghislaine Maxwell. Look at Jeffrey Epstein. If that was going on and it was so hard to take her down after all these years, and Prince, what's his name? Prince Andrew, and MSNBC now is supporting Disney and hates DeSantos. Pay attention to that. Keep your eyeglasses on and you'll see which side one is really leaning more towards. It's the party of Satan. I'll tell you, because but I know conservatives, I mean, I have my pet peeves about them too, because they don't, you know, they poo-poo reparations, and I support that just like Robert Johnson started BET. So I am balanced. I can have the proper evaluation, but I will say the Republicans are not trying to destroy the country like leftists or Democrats are, or socialists, by the way. I can say that to be a fact. I am for the nuclear family structure, even though I don't have any children myself. I support God, family, and the Constitution, the nuclear family structure, which Black Lives Matter happened to remove from their website, by the way. Then in the debate, this lady who debated Brandon Tatum, she lied about it. He was trying to explain to her, you guys, that isn't conspiracy. You remove that from your site, that you adamantly at the time, you did not support the nuclear family structure. You see, yeah, they didn't want a lot of Black people to know about that, you see. So they used the feminist movement, the welfare state, the early 1970s, Gloria Steinem funded, admitted, this is declassified, she was an agent by J. Edgar Hoover, funded by the Rockefeller Foundation and the Ford Foundation, quoted by Steve Coakley, rest in peace to the Baba, investigative journalist who used to work for the mayor's office out of Chicago, that exposed the Boule along with Alex Jones, thanks to those two separate people. Similar, same information. That's what my sources, I cite my sources like a research paper. Cite your sources. So you guys know I'm not just pulling this like a rabbit out the hat. I'm very well studied. This is not a coincidence. All this Roe v. versus Wade stuff, this was all eugenics. Margaret Sanger, who Hillary Clinton said she was a big idol of, that they did radiological experiments on Black people. Hillary Clinton said Margaret Sanger was her idol. Who did Hillary Clinton have sitting next to her election night, the night that she lost to Trump? Gloria Steinem. I said, where have I seen that woman before? I recognize her. Said she looks familiar. And then it dawned on me. I said, oh, because she was due. The elites wanted her to be the first female president, but they didn't cheat enough. It didn't go along according to their plan. You see, the second time they had to make sure it's right. We got to flip the, we got to control the voting machines, and we got to get legislatures on our side to lie and gaslight. Yeah, they had to do it a little bit differently, you see. Yeah. But let me read the rest of these comments. You guys, let me finish. D. Marie 33Z says, was there an explosion there today? That was a while ago. Look up if you're referring to the Georgia Guidestones. It says, why Joe Biden ears are always different. Look at the pics over time. It's terrifying. Okay, got you. WX2 says, Exodus has known backdoor leaks and no password is required to pull up the dev menu that has the private keys. Whoa. I could see that. I could see that. Thank you for that intel. Says the Atomic wallet is more secure than Exodus. It requires a password for every transaction. The problem when I try to use Atomic, I'm gonna have to try again because I like to have backups. They said that like I had to use a card to fund the wallet because of course I was using a US card. You know how they have those third-party exchangers was going overseas, so they have you pay this fee, but it was blocking me out because the security was so strict. I had to contact their support, their administration, because they also, this is another thing this gets into, how there was digital currencies prior to Bitcoin, and they had programs called HYIPs. That's an acronym for high yield investment programs. And similarly, they would stop or make it hard for American citizens to buy digital assets over in Europe through these. And this was prior to Bitcoin. When I was involved in some programs, a guy told me about some years ago. So I noticed that similarly with cryptos, they make it hard for US citizens to acquire even certain coins, and why certain exchanges blocked out US citizens. I don't find that to be an excuse. That's another way the cabal is using to try to make people poor and to try to give some people the first, make certain people first in line, you know, put people ahead of the line. And this is why I know cryptos are controlled and manipulated when they created this. But thank you for that information, WX2. Appreciate you. Thumbs up. Appreciate you. D. Marie 333 says, Mitch Ray Ta is on here daily with crypto charts live, and he's literally always 100% correct on his calls. It's amazing. Actually, okay, if you can, after the video, leave that comment or that name in the section, or email me that name, Mitch Ray Ta, so I can look him up. Because in case, you know, something happens to this video, I won't, when YouTube took down that other video, they took down a comment section, so I won't be able to read what you just left. So in case you're still watching, D. Marie, if you have any information you'd like to share, and you want to make sure that I get it, and this all goes for anybody that's left any messages in previous videos that didn't upload because it was removed, just send me an email, and I'll know if it's not for consultation, and just share the information, whatever it is. If you guys, you know, mainly serious inquiries only, because I don't want to be flooded. But if you guys want me to know that information, I appreciate it. You just shoot me an email at j279dorsey@gmail.com, or just comment after the video in the comment section and let me know. And I can look that information up. D. Marie 333 says, him and Scott Carney use crazy trigonometry, TA, and give for free. Okay, appreciate that info. Cheeky Vegas says, any word on an RV? I was hearing my source threw a date out there, September, but he also said, because some of this may be based upon a collapse, so we could be looking at November, possibly. I think he was saying that the XRP, they were trying to drag the XRP lawsuit because that has something to do with the timeline. But the first date he gave said sometime in September, and then the next date said potentially November. He said they want something to go into effect. I think maybe that ISO thing. So, but things are in motion now as we speak. Remember, they really don't want people to know when this RV is going to happen. They just, I was always, I would hear that from multiple gurus. They would say they don't want, they want to keep it hush hush. They just want it to be like a surprise whenever they decide to do it. But I think we're close. We're getting down to the final wire. I remember listening to some of TNT's last calls. He would say, we're really close, even though I know you guys have heard that for years, but he said, each year, just keep in mind, month after month, day after day, we're getting closer, no matter what. Even though as long as it's taken, we're still a day, we're getting much closer, by the way. Dave Apex says, now the New Testament, what happened to all praise the Most High, question mark. Dave Apex says, Isaiah 43:11, no one sits besides me who said they sit by the Father. Isaiah 43:11 equals, no one sits beside me who said they sit by the Father. Okay, question mark. Okay, interesting. Dave Apex says, Trump, 666 Fifth Avenue. Okay, got you. Says, Alex Jones, Jesse Ventura, both 3-3. Okay, not sure where you're coming from, Dave. I know, but that's it, guys. If you guys had any last comments or concerns, you're welcome to jump in really quick. So I'm getting ready to shut things down. The topic of the video was on the global currency reset connection to XRP, banking changeover to crypto. I went over these main cryptos you want to make sure you have in your possession are XRP, Ripple, XLM, Stellar Lumens, XDC, Algorand, maybe Solana, HBAR. Well, Solana, I don't know if that's going to be ISO 2020. I heard Cardano and Algorand may be added, or already there's updates given, and HBAR may be added to the ISO ledger. But I heard whenever they decide to crash all the rest of the coins, there's only going to be a handful left. So it would behoove you to have these coins in your portfolio: XRP, XLM, XDC, especially, I would say, Algorand, Cardano, and HBAR. And then for those out there who have deep pockets, Quant as well. I think Sheeb's going to do well, but I don't know how long Sheeb's going to be around. So I will try to get in when the getting gets good in Sheeb, when the time is right, pull in and pull out. But you got to be careful with these meme tokens, because I heard down the road, I was told by several, or watching other sources, multiple channels, that they plan on doing a big collapse. And when this big happens or thing, they're going to get rid of a bunch of cryptos and only allow a handful to be left. And they're going to regulate a lot out of existence. You see through the regulations from, which I already went over, from legislatures, and to get rid of the retail small fry people. So just something to keep in mind. Well, I appreciate you guys joining me. If you like the video, make sure you thumbs up. Subscribe to Dorsey's Resource. You can follow me on Facebook at Dorsey's Resource. You can follow me on Twitter at Dorsey's Resource. I'm now on True Social at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Parler at Dorsey's Resource. I'm on Instagram at Dorsey's _resource 2019. Dorsey's, like with the S _resource 2019. That's my Instagram address. Facebook, of course, obviously, I mentioned that already. Twitter, I have a big following. Big shout out to you guys. The marathon will continue. Real legends never die. They live in our hearts forever. And you guys out there, before we leave, I want to close out with a word of prayer. Thank you, Father God, for us gathering us here. Thank you, Lord, for protecting us, keeping us from hurt, harm, and danger, seen and unseen, Father God. I ask that you protect all the real ones out there, all my subscribers, those have kept me in prayers, Lord. I pray that you protect them, that no weapon formed against them shall prosper, Lord. I thank you for sending your son. I repent right now, Lord, for all my sins. Thank you for sending Yeshua HaMashiach to die on the cross, to shed his blood so that we might have life and have it more abundantly, Father God. For greater is he that is in us than he that is in the world. And do not conform to the ways of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And I thank you, Father God. Touch those who may be traveling on the highways and byways, Lord. Give us a spirit of discernment. And thank you for all your blessings, because when blessings go up, praises come down. What's the saying? When praises go up, blessings come down. Thank you, Father God. When praises go up, blessings come down. Thank you for all that you do. And until next time, blessings, peace to all out there. You guys have a blessed, wonderful evening, morning, wherever you may be. Take care. And I'm out. Trying to get to the screen here. Right.